another edition of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends. It's going to be episode 13 of season 5. We're really flying along.
Wow, episode 13 already?
Episode 13 already.
Woo!
And as usual, I've got my my brother, my partner, Nick, Mr. Nick Valenti, here with me tonight, of course, as always.
Hey,
Nick, how's it going?
oh, going fantastic.
You
And we
are
got speaking of which, we got a fantastic guest for part 2, and I'm hoping for a part 3.
yes.
Adam Davis, one of the 3 original founders of the North American Dogman project. He's no longer with them, of course, but he is now my director of the International Dogman Project, Ohio, the state of Ohio. He runs that with his wife, Jen. And Adam is a field researcher supreme. I mean, this guy got tons and tons of information that he had handed over to the NADP originally. He is a Fortean researcher. The man just puts his heart and soul, and he's had a lot of encounters and sightings that we're going to go do a part 2 today with him. And I did part 1, Adam, I know that was kind of, well, it was hard for you because it came right to the heart. Some of the stuff that you discovered when you're out there, boots on the ground. We're talking boots on the ground, people. He's not just a guy that sits behind and become a keyboard warrior. Nah, he's out there and he finds this stuff, and well, some of the stuff finds him.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Hopefully I won't have any PTSD moments tonight.
You know, it's nothing to be ashamed of.
No.
These days, besides being a boots on the ground field investigator myself, I get people calling me up a lot, Adam, and I kind of do counseling with them. They're asking me about my encounter. Now, I differentiate between an encounter and a sighting. A sighting is when it runs across the road in front of your car or runs through the forest. An encounter is where it's sitting there or standing there staring at you, and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And sometimes an encounter can be, and I don't want to drag up bad memories and give you any more PTSD, but sometimes you find the leftovers from a dogman encounter with another individual person or whatnot, and that really hits home. I'm pounding my chest over here like this, but you guys can't see it. The camera.
It's one difference between finding an animal kill that's highly anomalous versus finding human remains.
That's hard. And then, like you said last time, finding the remains and then going to report it and coming back and nothing's there.
Yeah.
It's secretly secreted away by some unnamed government agency.
Right.
So where do we leave off last time, Jay, with him? I think that was after Adam had found some clothing and went to report it, and we kind of ran out of camera time.
Yeah, and he came back and they were gone.
I just want to note, Adam lives in Ohio, and there is an unusually large amount of reports that come into the IDP, and to me in particular, from Ohio. I mean, north, south, east, west, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's a lot of activity, dogman activity out there. Adam, you got any reasoning behind this? Why so much?
Well, it goes back to my research on how long these things go back, at least in our area. From what I was able to gather, the Native Americans knew these things were here for a very long time, from when the Shawnee came across the Mississippi River and everything, and they eventually kind of fought back the Allegheny culture that was here at that point in time, the actual mound builders.
Right.
But that's a different, technically different thing altogether, because they described hairy giants as well, and we all know what that probably was. But and it's interesting to think that the quote unquote hairy giants have may have had an actual culture at one point. But the these things, there's a, what was I thinking of here? Oh yeah, the when the Native Americans came here, they fought everything down to a where they were able to actually make it their own land over however many 100 years or whatever, maybe less. I don't know. They didn't really. It doesn't really go into it, but the Shawnee especially knew that they were here because the Shawnee were primarily in the area that we consider the Miami Valley, which goes from about almost to Lima, all the way down to Cincinnati. Okay, you got the Little Miami and the Great Miami rivers, and then you have the other rivers that feed into it, which are the Mad River. The Great Miami comes off of Indian Lake. The Little Miami, I think, comes from that part of the headwater area too. Then there is the Stillwater River. Okay, but it's the Stillwater and the Mad run into the Great Miami, and then the Little Miami is its own thing, about 20 or so miles away, depending on where you're at. But there's also the headwaters of the Scioto River that start up above the area of the other headwaters there. So it's kind of like that's literally the high point of Ohio right there. That goes between about Bell Fountain, all the way across to the other side of Grand Lake St. Mary's, over technically into part of Indiana. So you have this sort of oblong shaped area. All right. Now, this is the area that the Native Americans told the white man to stay the hell out of because they didn't want these things riled up. Yeah, I said that's the nutshell version. And of course, what did the white man do? They did exactly the opposite. It's like, oh, that's really great up there. We need to go. It's like, and of course, they started having encounters. A lot of the time, there were people that were getting snatched off of horseback, going across the rivers and streams that are just all over the place up there. It's just crisscross. It's the headwaters, and it's all those tributaries feed into the big rivers. Now, and this also later goes into the whole idea of how they like to follow waterways. But I digress. White man came, he did the dumb thing, and got him pissed off. They were starting to go after people as they were clearing the land. It got to the point where the white man started building a lot of covered bridges so they could get over those waterways fast. They could basically come at it at speed and not have to slow down to go ford the river, ford the creek, because you know how creeks and rivers are. They're down like this. You got rough bottom.
Right.
You got to go up and down with horse and buggy, or horse and, even on just plain horseback, and that slows you down a lot, especially during a flood. So they basically made it to where, where once the roads were better than the old corduroy roads, which were when they were coming into Ohio, there was just so many trees everywhere. They just literally cut them down and laid them, side by side like that. Where that's why I was like corduroy road. It was like, talk about rumble seat. But like I said, that was how they initially paved the roads through here. But we're not here on infrastructure. We're talking about the Dogman. So, like I said, that's why there was a lot of historical covered bridges up through that area, because they figured out that if they could get across those waterways as quick as they could, it would minimize the amount of people who were getting snatched. Now, it didn't stop people from getting snatched from the edges of the farms and stuff, or if they, went out hunting into the woods, thing, because, everybody back then knew how to track. They knew signs, everything, like what I've described in the past. But, there would still be encounters or, abductions, whatever you want to call them, by these things. So that whole area is also rife with caves. There's a set of there's caverns that are up there that are advertised called Ohio Caverns. That's there's billboards all over the place down here for them. So it's a big, cave system. There's also another cave system not too far away called Seven Caves. There's Zane Caves, which is up there. That's a state park. And then there's all these caves that are on private property that aren't documented as, being out there really. As long, because if it's not documented under, being regular land, that are on regulated land, I should say, or otherwise advertised, who knows what's out there. It's like I said, but this goes into my now as far as how I don't remember if we talked about what I was trying to do with the NADP, about trying to get them to give me all of the information for Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. Okay, so I could actually make a map. Based on time, the type of encounter, what the behavior was, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and then I was gonna figure out where these were at in relation to that central area. Now, you can't just put a point in the middle of the map and just draw a circle, because like I said, this whole area is a big oblong area. But we do know we have a lot of sightings along all the rivers going down through Ohio, for the Miami Valley and the Scioto River. Because the Scioto River, if you're looking at it, it starts up, like I said, about somewhere, I can't remember exactly where, approximately in relation to Findlay and Lima, but it starts up there and then it goes east first, and then it goes down south through Columbus all the way down to Portsmouth, Ohio, where it joins the Ohio River.
Right.
So if you take if you kind of take a line sort of maybe curved slightly as your center point, as a sliding center point, and you take roughly a 150-mile radius. This is my estimates based on what I've seen just in the volume of reports. And you start it off, let's say, over towards Bell Fountain End, and then swing that down as far as you can go.
Right.
And somehow I'm the host now. Okay, I guess we just lost Jeremiah.
I'm still here. Don't worry.
Okay. And then scoot that all the way down across and let the center point slide, and then over into Indiana and up and back across. That will describe an overall oval area of somewhere about, well, like I said, 150 miles high versus trying to think about how long it is from Bell Fountain over to that part of Indiana. It's maybe about 30 or 40 miles into Indiana. Nick, are you there?
I'm here. Oops.
Okay,
things are going on here.
Right? Somebody's not wanting this information to get out.
Wow.
Yeah. Even though they left me on as the host, that's it. They're pinpointing me. I hear the helicopters now. But like I said, if you, am I the only one on now?
No, I've been here the whole time. Something's going on.
Okay.
Something is going on. I know Jay was having a little problem with his audio.
Anyway, like I said, if you add, let's just, I'm trying to think of, let's say about a 70-mile swath. So if you add 150 plus 150, and then that's another 75 miles in between.
Right.
So a little over 375 miles wide.
Sorry, guys, I lost you.
300 miles. There he is.
Yeah, I lost you for a second. Internet's all messed up here.
But like I said, about 375 miles wide by 300 miles, high as far as the blob
Right.
of territory. So look at what cities that encompasses. You got pretty much most of Ohio, almost all the way over to the Pennsylvania border. Okay, you've got all the way up into northern Indiana. You've got a big swath of Indiana on the east side,
Mhm.
from the from Elkhart and all that, all the way down to probably down to Lawrenceburg, I think it is, down there by by Cincinnati, all the way down into Cincinnati, across the border, if where the Ohio River is, all the way back up and across, including where I was talking about with Adams County, where my grandpa had his farm. And my uncle Chuck, lives in Brown County, which is one county closer to, lived in Brown County. He just passed not long ago, but one county closer to Cincinnati, which there was one that I was trying to get, the information on so I could actually go down and investigate it while I was going to my uncle's place. But nobody gave me the info. Every time I would, try to get info, they just, shut down and not tell me anything. But like I said, it's a massive area. And like I've mentioned before, I feel like that it's one big overall pack, that's, maybe, 50, 60 members strong, maybe more. I don't know. We don't know what's underground, that
Right.
could be nursery,
Uh-huh.
and they may cycle out different groups at a different time. There may be 200 or 300 in the pack. We'd never know.
Right.
But above ground, I kind of have a feeling there's at least 50 to 60 individuals that are grouped up, and some maybe occasionally a lone wolf. But it's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of like, like I've used the Jurassic Park idea as the trope of that, with where the raptors were hunting them. You may see one, you may see two, but you're not going to see all of them unless you are totally cornered.
Right.
And it's like, well, I'm gonna I guess a friend of mine, I think I mentioned her the other night, Sarah Whitfield. She sent me the video that I was asking about from August of a couple years ago, where she went out with us to the research area.
Right.
And lost him again. He's playing peekaboo tonight.
You got to remember where he lives. They get tons of snow, and
Right.
I mean, it just crashes their internet service like crazy. We were talking before. Adam, I know I did quite a bit of research on Ohio a while ago, and I know that there's a lot of tribes and Native American Indian tribes.
Right.
I was going to slap a question at you on this one, but out of all the tribes that went there, the 5 major ones were the Lenape out of Delaware and New Jersey, the Miami. People don't realize that there was a tribe called the Miami, the Ottawa, the Seneca, and the Wyandotte or the Wyandotte. There you go.
The Wyandotte.
Yeah.
A lot of them were subgroups of the overall Shawnee, like the Miami and the Wyandotte. They were subgroups. It's like,
right. And like the Toledo region area, the Ottawa and the Seneca really settled. But what I was trying to get at is all over the United States and Canada, I have uncovered, and anybody could really uncover this in my research, not field investigation, but research, going to libraries, looking at old newspapers, that they're burial grounds. Now, I guess there's a lot of Native American burial grounds in Ohio, in the state of Ohio.
Right.
Generally, when I can find that juicy bit of information about Dogman.
Mhm.
He's seen a lot of times, Dogman has seen a lot of times at around the Native American burial grounds. And I don't mean digging it up, I mean in that area. And from what I can gather from my research, is that they're there to protect the buried Native Americans. I don't know, did you ever come across anything like that?
Well, that's also, I believe, part of the reason why the Native Americans didn't really want the white man to go up there, is for the fact that that was also, like you said, burial ground area. But so they were using kind of, kind of using the dog man potentially as a
A deterrent?
well, yeah, deterrent, what, um an untrained, sort of an untrained, adopted guard dog would be one way to put it, because they were going to be roving everywhere. They knew that they were up there. They knew they had enough time to be able to bury somebody up there if they were going
Right.
to bury them. But generally speaking, they were not going to, be messed with, because that was considered a taboo area. Excuse me, I got that.
Well, while you're recovering over there, I just want to make the comment that um, the white man, and I don't mean the everyday white man back then, talking about traders, guys that went, trappers, guys that went up the rivers to get beaver pelts and whatnot.
Right.
They knew for a fact that when a Native American died, they would be buried with precious and semi-precious jewels and metals. And a
Yeah.
lot of these insidious trappers, I want to call them,
Mhm.
they would come up with their canoes. They'd, debark near a Native American burial ground and dig up, the bodies and
Right.
grave rob. Um,
But
and
they knew they were doing it at a risk.
at a big
and
risk. Yeah.
and it wasn't, they knew that that risk wasn't the Native Americans finding them, because the Native Americans generally stayed more or less out of those areas themselves.
Right. That's true.
I mean, yeah, the areas are rife with artifacts, but as far as settlements, you don't really see any settlements in those areas.
Mhm. I found some newspaper articles while I was on microfiche, I guess, uh,
Hmm.
back from the 1700s.
Right.
This was published by Brits. I guess it's before 1776. Before that,
Yeah.
that this trapper was torn apart in his home. And background on it, he had brought home, I guess it was his daughter. She found
Hmm.
him there torn apart. And background on that from the daughter said um, that he had brought home 10 years before that a some kind of precious stone that he always cherished, and it was gone
Right.
because they asked her, you know, what was going on? Well, why, the looks like everything's still here, but he was ripped to shreds, torn apart. Is there anything
Hmm.
missing? And she said, yes, that precious stone that he always kept with him from 10 years previous is gone. And as it turns out, that's one of the ones that he took from Native American burial grounds while he was, going up and down the rivers there trading.
Well, considering that, if he was in this area, considering the fact that Tecumseh, had his brother curse the area, it's possible that, oh yeah, yeah, that you've never, there's a thing
I didn't
called
come across that. No.
yeah, look up the curse of Tecumseh. Um, it was after the French and Indian War, if I remember correctly, where he had the land the valley cursed, and explains a lot. But
I mean, how's it doing
seriously
today?
though,
Yeah.
the but seriously I can't remember exactly what the curse consisted of, but I'm sure that it did include these things to some degree, because I'm sure that his brother had knowledge of these things, um, as most of the Native Americans did at the time and everything. But
Uh-huh.
it's entirely possible, depending on exactly when it happened, that it may be, there, that goes into some of the potential esoteric qualities these things have. So it's so it's entirely possible that there may have, and I've heard anecdotal stuff about the Native Americans having some with some of the the smaller subpacts or subpacks of them, where they're more ambivalent to humans and stuff, where they may have had some understanding with them and everything. See you later, bub.
Later, brother.
Yeah, be careful. Love you too. But brothers are rolling out. But that there may be, like I said, there may have been some understanding with the less aggressive bunches of them,
Right.
to if they see something amiss, track them down, find them, bring it back. Maybe, I don't know. As long as the Native Americans themselves weren't doing anything to them, maybe they were like I said, I was going to say before you brought this up, that maybe in some cases they had in a agreement with the ones that were less violent towards humans to to guard things for them.
Right.
But,
No, definitely, that would make sense. The Native Americans were here before Columbus, before the Vikings. It would make sense that they came upon the Dogman in the wilderness areas, and over the years, maybe made some sort of, I don't want to say peace with them, but some sort of understanding with them. Because
considering
Native Americans, they get along with nature. They look at nature in a different way than we do.
Right. Well, considering, like I said, I feel like the Dogman and most likely the Bigfoot at least in this area are remnants of the Allegheny culture. So it's amazing. So it's like I said, they fought the Allegheny culture to a standstill, to where most of the hairy giants were eradicated. But they didn't get them all. They basically drove the rest of them off. And now that the Native Americans have been gone for hundreds of years now, and everything as far as their settlements, and mankind has kind of let most of the area go back to nature, except for like I said, if you look at a map of Ohio, we're still mostly rural.
Really?
There's huge tracts of land that are nothing but woodlands.
What about mountainous areas?
The closest mountainous areas we have are out towards the east and the southeast. It's if the beginning of the Appalachians are considered to start along Route 32 as you go east from Cincinnati. And it's it's a lot of that's what you're looking at when you're going from that way until you get to about Jackson, Ohio, is where the valleys have cut through, for creeks and rivers going down into the Ohio River.
Right.
But it's still very rugged terrain, very similar to what the rest of the foothills of the Appalachians are. And then, like I said, the Appalachians really start picking up as you get to the very eastern edge of Ohio, where you're going into West Virginia and then Pennsylvania and all the way across through there.
Okay. Basically, I think our audience would like to know more of your sightings and encounters, and maybe tracks that you have found, most recently. What you got on that? Anything new?
Well, where did I leave off with that kind of information last time? I'm trying to think.
We were talking about where you found the parts of the human remains and stuff. I didn't want to get into that because I know that's a little PTSDing, and
Yeah.
you don't need to go there. How about we go
Right.
beyond that?
Well, about it was a probably. Did I mention anything about what happened in July or June or July that year?
Mm, no, I think we stopped at, when you
Okay.
went to report.
Yeah, because we were still more actively out there at that point in time. Me and my girlfriend at the time. I not Jen, but there we go. Bring him back in. But like I was saying though, I was walking looking for tracks out in front of the van. I was maybe about 100 feet in front of it so that the engine noise wasn't going to mess with me. It was a kind of a windy day anyway. And the wind was coming from my left across to my right.
Oh, let me call you right back.
Hey, welcome back. And
I don't know what's wrong with my internet, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. But like I said, the wind was coming from my left to my right. So anything that I was going to smell, was going to have to be upwind of me to my right. Well, I'm going across. We're on that first section of road there where we found the clothes, and before the first major bend, where we come to the field, and I'm like I said, I'm walking slow, looking for tracks in the dirt along both sides of the road and in the middle of the road where there's heavier silt, because it had rained a couple days before, and everything. And I'm listening and at that point in time, mind you, this is July. Okay. So I should be hearing everything live. I realize that it's dead quiet. All I'm hearing is the wind. And I just get this feeling from my right side. And I just freeze. And I'm standing there, then basically in mid stride. And I look over out of the corner of my eye, just rolling my eyes to my right and looking and moving my head as little as possible. There's a gap in the trees right there. The creek is about 15, 20 feet, past that gap. And I see, and it's probably 2 p.m. So bright sunshine, beautiful day. And like I said, I'm standing there and I look, and standing there, you were talking about encounters. About 15 feet from me is this 9-foot thing, and it's just staring at me. It was just hulking, and I could clearly see its head, the ears, and it's just looking at me like this.
15 feet is kind of close.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm thinking, if I would have been out there by myself and my girlfriend wouldn't have been rolling slow behind me, I would have been probably dead.
Yeah.
Most likely. So I'm with my left hand, which was away from it to where it couldn't see me. I'm like, telling her to get up there as quick as she could. So she rolls up and she pokes her head out the window, the driver's side window, and says, "What's wrong?" And I just kind of gesture with my head like this. And about the time I did that, I'm looking at it, and when I do this, it turns and goes back into the woods. And I hear a splash as it goes down into the creek. I'm like, when I see, I just quickly get into the van and said, "Let's get the fuck out of here. I'm done with the day."
Yeah. 15 feet away. I mean, that is just like
that's unreal.
You can smell his breath at that point. Wow.
Well, like I said, the only thing that, like I said, I couldn't key in on its smell because, the wind was coming literally right across me towards him. I'm sure he smelled me a long
hitting
time
your back and going towards him. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
He smelled you a long way off then.
Yeah, that's why he was waiting for me to look, to look there. Like I said, if I would have done this, I'm pretty sure, her there or not, I would have probably been dead.
Oh,
Oh my
That's
god.
why I just instinctively froze and didn't give it as few clues as possible that I was on to it, like it was on to me.
Right.
But excuse me.
All right.
Trying to let's see here. I found, let's see, in 2000 and this, and I've got I never sent you guys all the pictures of the tracks and stuff so you could display them, did I? I'll
No.
have to do that for the third one.
Yep.
And everything. But I know I sent everything to Jessica for that show.
Right.
Stuff we couldn't show obviously because it was of a gory nature because it was some of the kills I've come across.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that's another interesting thing. I'll get into that in a little bit. But the back in February of 2008, my girlfriend and I were coming home from my mom's, and we decided to take a little, just a little circle around the block to see if we could find any tracks and everything. And because there was plenty of snow on the ground, it had thawed, so all the roads were passable finally, because that was that winter where everything was super hard frozen for a long time around here. We had you remember how it was, like the temperatures didn't get above 10 or 11 degrees during the day. Yeah. That's something else I gotta tell you. I mean, before I go into the one thing, let me tell you about this. While it was still during that hard freeze, it was like February, I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was February 10th and February 11th. It got down to like negative 15 degrees both nights. But on February 10th, her dad and I were going out to do a job at an apartment building because he was an electrician, and we were rewiring an entire building, and I was helping him with that. We come up to Diamond Mill and Dayton Farmersville, if I remember correctly, and I looked over and I see a deer laying there on the side of the road, big old buck. Surprisingly, still had its rack, for as late as it was in the season. Which, like I said, I thought, that was unusual in and of itself. But like I said, it was definitely a big buck.
Dead or injured?
Huh? Oh, it
Adam,
was
was
dead.
it dead or injured?
It was dead. Somebody hit it.
Oh.
You could tell by the way it was laying that its neck was broke.
Mm.
But it was like right there on the road. Legs were out in the road and everything. And I'm like, wow. It's like, well, let's see if the road crews pick it up or not. And if they don't pick it up, we'll pick that sucker up tomorrow and we'll have some venison, because it's frozen, solid by that point. Well, we came back, that night or, that evening, it was still laying there. And so we made our preparations by getting a tarp and putting it in the back of the van, so we'd be able to go ahead and turn down that way and collect it and take it back to the house and, gut it and clean it and everything to be able to, to have venison. Well, got up there the next day on the 11th. It's like 7:30 in the morning. Lights just coming up good. And I look over there and I'm like, the hell? I'm looking at where the deer was laying. All right. Now, bear in mind, 11 degrees during the day, minus 15 at night. What's going to happen to the hide of a deer, when it freezes on the body?
Yeah.
Okay. It ain't going nowhere.
No.
Something was able to pull that hide off like a sock.
Oh.
It was literally, the hide was laying there inside out. You can see, there were the little bits of flesh and like the veins and stuff of it from where it was connected to the rest of the carcass. and the carcass itself had been taken about 40 feet down from where the hide was, and again it was almost completely denuded of flesh. The guts were gone. All the meat was pretty much scraped off the bones real roughly. There wasn't a knife mark on it. It
So
was
you're
all
saying
like
something skinned
something
this?
had gotten and
Yeah.
Yeah.
ripped it off of the bones and everything, frozen. Frozen.
I've tried that after hitting deer, and within minutes, hide's frozen, and a human being has no chance of taking that hide off.
Exactly.
So Adam, what you're
But-
saying is that this thing was skinned and then
Yes.
moved, and then something went at it and
Yeah.
took the internal organs and the external muscle meat and everything else.
Mhm. Yep. Exactly. Frozen meat.
Wow.
Like I said, if you with a knife, it would take hours for somebody with a knife to chip it off. Now, mind you,
Oh,
there's a house right there on the corner. Okay, it was right there by a farm, but it was down the road, from and where they had a little bit of cover right there at this little culvert. Okay, is where the actual carcass wound up at. And it was like it was pulled against the trees that were there in that culvert, and it was just totally torn apart, as far as all the meat was gone off of the bones, and it was just crazy.
What would you say this thing possibly weighed?
Oh, I'd say it was at least a 300-pound buck.
Oh,
Wow.
whoa,
Yeah.
big boy.
Yeah, because that was when we looked at the rack when we went by it, it was every bit of a 10-point rack.
A monster.
Man,
Yeah.
that is huge, Adam. That is
Right?
huge.
So, and now, bear in
I
mind
don't
what
care
just
where
said.
you are in the country, they're big.
Right.
Yeah.
Now bear in mind what I just said about the fact that it was skinned.
Yeah.
Now think about about me describing the clothes.
Yeah.
They don't like something that they're not going to have an easy time of eating.
Right.
But on a human, we're all pink and fleshy.
Yep.
Our skin is not tough.
Mm-mm.
A deer's hide is pretty tough,
Especially when it's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all
Yeah.
that, and got all that hair too. That if I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you guys have hunted. You know how
Yeah.
that deer hair comes off.
Yep.
All right.
Something that was trying to eat that flesh.
Oh, God.
That's like the picture. I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures of the kills that I've given, when it was on the NADP.
Right.
Okay, that's the stuff that I'm talking about. The thing was skinned. The deer was literally skinned. Something had got a hold of its tail and ripped it, and we ripped it up to the shoulders, and and just took the organs and ate them, and ate most of the flesh off of it. The hind legs were missing, and it wasn't like I've got a picture of a poached kill. Okay,
Right.
that was found just up the road from that by about 60 or 70 yards. All right, and we found it a week later, and you can clearly see that first of all, that there was an arrow that had or a gunshot that had gone through the one side. I tell them by how big the hole was. I would say it was a broadhead, went right between the ribs, and you can see where it connected on the other side.
Right.
All right, and then there's the fact that there was still a lot of meat on the bones. Okay, I mean the ribs were all intact. There was every bit of the meat was left on the bone on the bones there, and the hindquarters, the loin across the spine on the other side of the spine had been carved away. But compare that to the one that I found the two prints next to. Something had torn the meat off. There wasn't a knife mark anywhere on those bones. And and the fact that the meat from that first one that I found, the one that the kill,
Right.
nothing touched it.
Huh.
Because I discovered that in September. Okay. It took 5 weeks for Jody to come up and actually have a look at it. By that point in time, all that meat was dried out
Right.
on the bone. Okay. There were even the skin, it was still intact. The whole head was still intact. The meat on the neck was still intact. The forelegs that were there, that were dislocated from their shoulders, you know, their places on the carcass were still, all the meat was there. Nothing that touched that thing whatsoever.
Really?
That other carcass that had been, you know, butchered out by somebody who poached it, the bones were mostly scattered by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a week fresher than the first one that I found.
Now, Jay, the one he's describing, that 300-pound buck, can you imagine the creature and the size and the strength that creature must have to pick something 300 pounds, frozen, mind you, up and take it, what was it, Adam, about 40, 50 feet away?
Well, I mean, first of all,
I mean,
the
that's
fact that it was that the skin was laying 40 or 50 feet away from where the carcass was taken. It
Yeah.
literally skinned the carcass where it was laying. So I'm thinking that maybe 2 or 3 of them might be teamed up.
Yeah.
You know, but still, you know, something, you know, to do that, because, you know, something had to grab like the back legs, because it was the way it was pulled off.
right.
You could see where that was rough around the, you know, the only part of the hide that was still on the carcass was on the lower legs. And it was rough. It wasn't like somebody took a knife and cut around it. It was like something that clawed it
Pulled
around it
down.
or gnawed it off
Yeah.
to where it could pull off the hide.
So what you're saying, from the top of the thigh, ripped down to near where the hoofs are, and it ripped it straight down.
Yeah, it was because it was kind of shredded.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it could have been something, you know, things, you know, were holding on to the legs like this, one on one and one on the other, and then a third, maybe a fourth, pulled that off. But even humans wouldn't be able to do that.
You know,
No way.
I mean, I know a bear could do something like that, but that's not their modus operandi. That's not
No.
what they would have done.
That would also require grasping hands,
That's right.
because
Correct.
a bear, it doesn't have a thumb. It's basically like, you know, four pads and then the claws. It's basically like an oversized, think of a bear paw as an oversized 5-toed dog paw.
Right.
Okay. Because you got a wide pad here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So pretend my thumb is up here.
Right.
And then the toes in there, and then you got the claws, you know. And they have limited, you know, grasping ability, kind of like a dog, you know. It's like, and everything. They can kind of bring their toes down to do a little bit, to kind of dig and stuff like that, you know, get a little extra digging power. These things, in a lot of reports that I've read, can grasp a hold of doorknobs. They can grasp a hold of the underside of a car door handle, like, you know, like on the older style car doors, where you actually had to grab up and under and pull, which means that they can, you know, turn their arm like this. They're not just stuck like this. They are able to supinate and pronate their hands.
Correct. All right.
And, you know, and they are able to, in a lot of cases, get a hold of things that we wouldn't expect them to get a hold of. There's been people who've seen them pick up like a branch or a rock or something to, you know, to potentially use as, I don't know, maybe use as a weapon or something to just kind of throw and distract with, and everything. So that's like some of the close encounters that I've read a couple reports about, where, like, you know, there was 2 guys that had gone fishing, and they were wading the creek, and they came across these things. They were down in the creek, and these things were up on the banks looking down at them.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I forget where that was at. I want to say that was in somewhere in Indiana, I think. Down there, maybe down there towards either the White River or the Snake River down there in Indiana, because I know that one of the two goes through a cave system. I know for sure because of the fact I camped in that cave at one point with my Boy Scout troop. Again, the cave connection.
Yeah.
Hold on just one second. All right. But yeah, like I said, the whole connection with the cavern systems and stuff, because we've had, well, I mean, we'll get back into that later. But these things are able to do a lot, to do a lot more than what an average animal could do. I mean, let me sit, come here, you little bugger. All right. Like I said, imagine this. Oh, this is Lily. Anyway, but like I said, she can't supinate or pronate her paw.
Right.
But she can kind of grasp. Like right now, she's grasping with her hand over here, her paw over here to hold on to me. All right. Yeah, she's a good baby. Okay, Lily. Thank you for being my unwilling demonstration model. But like I was saying though, these things can reach under and grab things. They can,
right. They can move their hands underneath.
Right. It's, and like a lot of people described them having raccoon-like, paw structure. A raccoon doesn't necessarily have, an opposable thumb, but its paw reaches out well enough,
right,
to be able to grasp. And it wouldn't take much of an evolutionary leap for something that's here as a fifth digit to come down far enough. Think about the dew claw, okay, on a dog. Again, for our viewers at home, come here, Lily. I need you up here. Ah, all right. Oh, come here. You see the dew claw, all right?
The bottom one there.
All right, exactly. That equates to the thumb on a dog. But these things have a working thumb, effectively, or something like a working thumb. I'm not sure if it's got a saddle joint like our thumb has, where we can do this and do this, but at the very least, it can do this.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what the full dexterity range is on them, but apparently it's enough for them to do a lot more than a normal dog would ever be able to do.
I can imagine. Adam, since we're doing show and tell, can you have Jen go out and see if we can get into the house and you could show us?
Well, considering what, yeah, let me tell you one of the reasons why I'm pretty sure she decided to not come on tonight.
Yeah.
I got a text from her at about 6:43 in the morning. Okay, I didn't wake up to the text. But she said that some things had her scared to hell and back. That she and Harley, our other dog, they're over there at the house. I'm at my mom's right now, kind of helping to take care of her.
Right.
But she had woke up to Harley shivering so hard against her that it woke her up, and that she was whining and crying. Okay, something scared her, and she listened close, and she could hear something up against the side of the house right next to the porch. And she could hear growling through the wall. So like I've heard people say that they can hear that sometimes that they can hear it through the wall and everything. I'm thinking that these things might be trying to press themselves against the side of the house as hard as they can so that they can use their hearing to hear what's going on in the house. Thank God these things have not figured out that our houses are nowhere near as strong as they used to be.
Yeah.
because I mean, unless it's a really well built house made out of 3/4 inch plywood and proper 2x4s and everything, they'd be able to come through the wall of most houses these days.
All
Oh,
right.
absolutely.
You know, but like I said, that infrasound would be able to travel right through that wall, especially if it's pressing up against the wall like this.
Easily. Yeah.
That's what my daughter heard too. That one night, when we had the one that was at the window messing with me, messing with Jen. It was having the staring contest with her, and it would, like I said, every so often when she would look away, it would tap on the window, and then she said it would go away occasionally, and we were wondering where it was at. It would go away for a few minutes. It went to the, I'm thinking, as you're looking at the kitchen window from the inside, it went to the right, which was towards my daughter's room. And she said she came out about halfway through, and it was just after it had disappeared for a minute. And she said, I heard something growling outside my wall. And she said wall, not window. And so I'm thinking that it was, and she said that she heard the wall creak when it did it too. And that's another thing that Jen said today, is that she heard, while it was up against the wall, she heard the wall creak like it was leaning against it.
Mhm.
So, like, mind you, my house does not have very many windows,
Luckily.
yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
The one window that's there is up on the porch, but the edge of the porch goes to about I'd say about 4 feet from the original end of the house where the new room was put onto it. So it would be able to get up against that corner of the house right there where it's still against the living room. And unfortunately, there's still some brush there that's from where we took out a couple of bushes and everything, but it grew up real heavy over last summer. We hadn't had a chance to clean it out. Otherwise, I would have had her this today looking for tracks. But like I said, she, didn't even think about it and everything, because she was so, I don't know if you would call it fatigued. Cause I had question. In your guys, knowing that these things put off infrasound.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard any effects from the infrasound as far as
Yes.
causing fatigue, disorientation, things like that?
A
Yeah.
positive yes.
Yeah.
Talk about the fatigue level. I mean, you got to remember, like, say if you're at a zoo and a tiger catches you off guard with its infrasound, it goes right through you. This is scientific fact. It's something I've studied in zoology.
Right.
That is a real fact. And
Yeah,
it kind
elephants
of
can do it
wears
too.
your system. Anything that's going to stress your system is going to fatigue you. Now, we're talking Dogman, and if he did it for effect to, let you know, hey, I'm here.
Well, like I said, Harley was freaking out, so I'm pretty certain that just not because if it was just a growl type sound, we get diesel trucks all up and down there all the time. And Harley might look in the direction of the road for a second and just put her head back down, like, okay, it was a truck, like no big deal. She doesn't freak out unless these things are close.
Now might be a good time, Adam, to get to do that Three Little Piggy thing. Get a brick on the outside of your house and replace that door with a 3/4 inch steel door.
Rick, hell, I'm going to put AR 500 steel siding up.
Man, I'm going to tell you, that's not a fun thing to have.
Yeah.
But I like the part where he's tapping on the window.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, my eyes are over here. Don't look over there. I'm here.
Yeah, she was trying her best to ignore it, but she was still looking out of the corner of her eye. And, even when she turned her head far enough to where she couldn't really see it, that's when it would go,
yo, I'm over here, not there.
Yeah.
So
like I said,
don't ignore me.
Like I said, that window the top of my head comes to the windowsill. I'm 6'2".
Woo.
This thing's eyeball, there's about this much glass between the top of the bottom of the windowsill and the top of the windowsill, so almost 12 inches of glass.
Wow.
Its eyeballs were just above that first, or the division in the window, because it's got a top and a bottom.
Right.
And so it was over 7 feet. And she said that it looked like it was hunched over, looking like this.
You guys must be cooking some good eats over there, either that or be looking like good eats, because they're hanging out in your territory.
Well, you remember how I was talking about Twin Creek? Okay. If you look on a map, all right, Twin Creek, I forget exactly where it dumps into the Miami River, but it goes all the way up from my research area up through Preble County, which is the adjacent county, to within about 4 miles of my house.
Okay.
And there's other tributary creeks that run over to it from the direction of my house. So again, within a mile or so of a body of moving water seems like where most of these sightings occur. I mean, look at the Dublin, Ohio sighting.
Yeah.
If you looked at a map of that area, if I'm not mistaken, right there along with the railroad track, there's a creek very close by.
Mm-hmm.
It might even be one of the major tributaries of one of the rivers. I can't remember.
Well, just look, that area is providing water for them, good hunting area, food, and you have cave areas over there, so shelter.
Exactly.
So it's providing all three, the big three.
Dublin is right up there.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's right in that band like I was talking about. And like I said, if I could ever get, probably not going to happen now, but if we can collect, as the IDP, as many sightings as we can from this Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, maybe Michigan area too.
Right.
I'm like I said, it goes up into Michigan. I mean, there's the natural barriers of the lakes right there. But I'm 100% sure that part of the pack does range up into the LP. To one extent or another. Like I said, I'd have to sit there and actually draw it down on a map and figure it out. What the approximate maximum range that this group has.
Right.
But like I said, they break down into hunting parties. It seems to break down, I should say, into hunting parties of anywhere between 3 and 6. And that's what I was going to get on next. October 2018, we were out there in the research area, and I don't remember if we talked about this before or not.
No,
but, I know we may have talked about it personally, but I'm not sure if we did it on the air.
Right.
We were out there checking the area, and we came up to this one part of the area where it was quiet. And it was very early October, so it was like just September just passed. So there was still plenty of woodland activity. The leaves were just starting to turn, but there was still plenty of cover. And we're out there, and we're hearing one bird up in the tree right above us, chopping its little head off, like get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. It's like called cheep, cheep. Like it's how an alarmed bird sounds. And we're hearing this strange whistle. Okay, and you hear us like that from different directions. Okay, one was maybe about, if I had to guess, maybe 20 or 30 feet into the woods, and we hadn't been sitting there. I got the video. I'll have to send it to you guys. We hadn't been sitting there more than maybe about 45 seconds. And before, after I turned on the video on my phone, and we hear a growl and then a thump, thump, right next to the vehicle, maybe about 8 or 10 feet in. Okay. And like something had stepped down onto the ground, or maybe just stomped, its feet like that.
Uh-huh.
And it didn't make a lot of noise of rustling when it did it, but it definitely, like, it didn't, whatever it was, did not have a lot of area to its feet. Like, let's just say, think about the difference between the size of an average man's foot versus the size of an average Rottweiler's. Okay. All right. Almost comparable in size weight wise, but the area of the foot versus the area of the paw, bringing a foot up and down is going to mash, and it'll make a lot more noise than something that's more round and it just stomps it. So think about that when you're thinking about the how the weight, these things weights distributed and stuff. Just enough. Oh, son of my nose. I don't know. I'm not having a PTSD moment so much as my nose is decided to run. Give me a second.
I'd just like to ask you guys if you could check your sound, because there's interference coming through.
Yeah, I'm hearing a little crackling too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Jeremiah. I can hear him because he's kind of broken up there.
Yeah, you just see if you could mute it for a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I was saying.
Yeah, it was Jay.
Yep. Shame on you, Jay. Shame. You and your bad internet connection. Anyway. But like I said, and we heard we were hearing that whistling from the one side, and then we heard one working its way around the back of the SUV, probably maybe about 40-50 feet out, because we had come around a slight bend.
Mm-hmm.
So where we couldn't see straight back behind us real far. So I'm like, okay, they're working their way around us. Let's get the hell out of here.
Right.
Next year, 2019, late August, we get out there with our friend Sarah Whitfield. This is what I was going into earlier. And we come across, we're seeing deer out in the fields. It's getting closer to dusk. It's like maybe about 7:45, 8 o'clock. Not quite, dusk yet, but the sun is starting to go down. And we're hearing these whistles again, but this time, instead of one whistle, we're hearing like that. Now, we're like, okay, and we're hearing it from, let's say we're on the road here. I'm in the driver's seat. Last time that we heard it, I was in the passenger seat of my wife's vehicle. We were in my van this time, and Sarah was in the seat behind me, and Jen was over here in the passenger seat, and we were listening, to one that we came up to that first. It was that first bend where I was being stared down, and there's a deer. Or maybe it was the second one. I can't remember. I'd have to think about it again and look at the footage. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, it was at the second major bend. It was after the farm, the old farm that's there. But again, if somebody wants to look on a map, look up Anthony Road and Lower Gratis Road, and you'll find the research area. You just look for that intersection. But we were hearing whistles from about my 4 o'clock, and whistles from sort of across the field, because there was a field here in front of us, and there was a little clearing right there at the bend, and then back this way there was more field, but there was a strip of trees that at the edge of that initial field before you get to the bend, and then the clearing went from the clearing into the field.
Right.
And again, I got footage of this on my my binoculars, and also I can't remember if Sarah got any actual video of it, but I know she got the audio. But I'll feature those binoculars on the equipment thing later for the site. But there was we had seen several deer, and there was this one that was isolated in that little clearing. And every time you would hear the whistles, it would look in the direction of where the whistles were coming from. And then finally, we heard the whistles pretty close, right up and that's when the deer, kind of did this number. And then when it was looking over its shoulder and took off up the hill into the woods. And then about 2 seconds later, again, not sure how many people are hunters out here, but you ever hear if you ever bow hunt, you hear that noise that the deer makes when it's hit with an arrow, that sort of noise, sort of a half bleat, pain. We heard that followed by an immediate crack. And like I said, that deer that I found, with the footprint, with the prints beside it, had its neck broke. Basically a bloodless kill, but afterwards it's not bloodless, because these things have the power to be able to do that. But it was like they were hunting it in such a way that they were trying to get it as scared as possible too.
Huh.
So think about that. They try to terrorize people, and they try to terrorize whatever other prey that they're going after, it seems like. And they've been known to use humans' pets as a method to be able to draw people out and instill terror.
That's malevolent right there.
Do what?
That's malevolent. So
Exactly.
Malevolent. Yeah.
Yeah. That definitely also malevolent intent, and the ability to strategize and stuff like that shows a lot higher intelligence to me than any normal canine would have. Some people have theorized that they're just a wolf that's learned to walk upright and stuff like that, or in some cases, oversized coyotes or whatever. No, these things are, they have a level of intelligence that's, in my opinion, from what I've seen, from all the different things that I've read and the things I've experienced, that they are at least on, a level of cunning and intelligence, and their problem solving, at the very least on par with a chimpanzee.
Yeah,
maybe just a little above.
Monkeys, right?
Yeah, because we know that chimps can hunt, and they do actively, and they know how to use tools and stuff. And these things can figure out stuff just like that, it seems like. But they don't need to use tools to do the killing.
Not at all. Not when you have the claws. Yeah.
Right.
Well, Jay, we've reached a little bit beyond our hour of filming. We're going to have to leave the rest for a part 3.
Yes.
We'll have Adam back on, and maybe he and I and stuff, we can do an equipment show.
Oh no, I caught a little black dog man.
Did you see the ears go up?
Yeah. What? Sam, what?
All right, so listen, next time we have Adam on, I hope you'll have a Dogman to pull in for us as a guest star. And well, if it followed Jen home, tell her just because it follows her home doesn't mean she can keep it.
Yeah, she can't keep it. No,
it's a little dangerous, and wow. Right. I hope you have if you're not staying there tonight at your mom's, hope you're safe getting home.
Right.
And till next week, Jay, take it from there, man.
All right, guys. Thanks for all your viewers. We appreciate it. Adam, thank you for coming on again. It was an absolute pleasure. You were awesome. I love having you. Me and Nick love having you on. Your wealth of knowledge, and it's awesome. So, sorry about my little internet problems. So hopefully that recorded and everything, and I think we'll be all right. So,
alrighty.
For the folks
yeah,
out
that
there,
was
just a real
great,
quick
great
one.
show.
International Dogman Project, Ohio State. Adam and Jen do a fantastic job of putting up stuff for people to read and research. So you might want to hit it up on Facebook. In any case, Adam, Jay, have a good night, guys.
Yep.
You too.
Have a great night, guys.